Chapter 1. The Echoing Agony. In the remains of what once was a bustling metropolis, I wander, a grotesque figure, barely resembling a man. The right side of my skull gapes open, a gaping maw revealing the pulsating gray matter within, unprotected and obscene. Each step sends a jolt through my body, my one good eye barely clinging to its socket, twitching with every jerky movement I make. My skin, a molting canvas, peels back in layers, like the pages of a waterlogged book, each one exposing the rotting flesh and muscle that hunger underneath. I am an abomination, a freak amongst the undead, for I feed not just upon the living, but upon my own kind as well. And with each bite, each morsel of writhing gray matter and pulsing lifeblood consumed, their consciousness merges with mine, their fears, their loves, their very souls become trapped in the prison of my mind, voices that never cease. Just yesterday, or perhaps it was a century ago, time has lost all meaning, I stumbled upon a woman. She had been hiding in the shell of an overturned bus. The stink of her fear was intoxicating. I remembered the chase, her screams, the way her blood spurted in hot rhythmic geysers as I tore into her flesh. And now she is a part of me, her voice a constant scream in the cacophony that fills my head. I roam these desolate streets, the ruins of humanity's hubris in my kingdom. Buildings, once monoliths reaching for the heavens, now lay crumbled and decayed, their steel bones twisted and exposed to the gray sky above. The air is ripe with the stench of decay, the sweet coppery smell of blood mingling with the foul odor of death that hangs upon the world like a shroud. As I shuffle through the city's remains, I encounter a band of survivors, humans who have yet to succumb to the epidemic or to creatures like me. Their weapons are feeble attempts against the hunger that drives me. One by one, they fall, their resistance crumbling as easily as the world they once knew. Their life force flows into me, and their voices join the cacophony in my brain, a choir of agony that sings to the rhythm of my undead heart. In a moment of sheer desperation, a vain attempt to quell the noise, I tear at myself, ripping chunks of putrid flesh from my skull. The pain is immediate and intense, a white-hot blaze that sears through the fog of my mind. But it is fleeting, and as the wound festers, the voices only grow in number and intensity. I stand now in the center of the street, half my head nothing more than a ragged stump, the voices louder than ever. They are relentless, a tide of torment from which there is no escape. The woman's scream is a constant now, an area of horror that overlays the rest, a reminder of the monster I have become. And then, as if the universe itself mocks my suffering, a new twist of fate emerges. The voices, the endless maddening voices, do not abate. My own screams join theirs, a symphony of the damned that resonates through the empty streets. In the midst of the horror, a chilling realization settles upon what's left of my human consciousness. The sacrifice of my flesh, the barbaric attempt to silence the minds within my own, has been for naught. The agony remains, the voices continue to echo, and I am left to wander the ruins of this world. A monster, a pariah, an echo of the man I once was, condemned to an eternity of suffering and hunger. Chapter 2. The Haunting Past. The ruin of my mind festers as much as the wound on my once human head. Maggots wriggle through the gray matter, a vile sensation that never ceases. My hands, or the claws they have become, scrape against the concrete as I drag my broken body through the debris of the city. The skin is pulled taut, splitting, the muscle underneath torn and exposed to the toxic air. I am a grotesque tapestry of the life I once led and the death I now embody. Memories are not my own. They claw at the inside of my skull, demanding to be heard. I am haunted by a past pieced together from the minds of those I've devoured. The human I consumed, her memories are vivid, a stark contrast to the dull echoes of the undead. Her voice is a scream that cuts through the cacophony, a reminder of the horror I inflict. I am drawn to a group of my own kind, zombies. They are weak, fumbling in their movements, but something within me snaps. The predator takes over, and I am upon one before I realize what I'm doing. The creature's flesh tears easily, too easily, and as I feast, the floodgates of its memories burst open. The revelation hits me with the force of a wrecking ball. This zombie, this shell of a person, it had fed on my family, my wife, my daughter. Their last moments of terror now reside within me. The images flash before my clouded, remaining eye, my wife's face, my daughter's smile, all overlaid with the grotesque vision of this creature tearing them away from me. I am a walking nightmare, each step through the familiar streets a torment. The homes where laughter once lived, the stores where life thrived, all now husks. The memories of my past life mingle with the fresh horrors I've created, each corner turned a reminder of a world lost, a life stolen. I try to outrun the ghosts by hunting, believing that in the blood and the chase I can forget. But it's a fruitless effort. Each life I extinguish, human or zombie, only serves to deepen the specters that haunt me. The voices grow louder, the memories more vivid, and I am sinking under their weight. It is then, amidst the rubble of human resistance, that I see her, a child. She moves with a group of survivors, her features a mirror of my daughter's. I am frozen, caught between worlds. The beast within salivates, but something else, something buried deep within the recesses of what's left of my humanity, recoils. I am torn by a need I can't understand, a need that goes beyond the hunger. It's a ghost of love, a father's dying ember of affection for his child. It is a pain sharper than the hunger. A reminder that beneath the monstrous facade, the man I was still clings to a tortured existence. But as I step forward, drawn to the child by a force I can't deny, the world erupts into chaos. The humans have seen me. They shout, weapons raised, a futile defense against the horror I have become. I am upon them before they can react, driven by a hunger that knows no reason. The child screams, and the sound is like a sledgehammer to my psyche. It is too much. It is all too much. I flee, the voices of my victims and the echoes of my past life howling in my ears. My own screams merge with theirs as I tear at the remnants of my face, trying to rip away the memories that claw at my insides. The day's horrors are not yet done, for as I escape, I catch one last glimpse of the child. The resemblance to my daughter is uncanny, and the realization that I could have devoured her is a new kind of agony. It is worse than the hunger, worse than the voices. It is the knowledge that there is no end to this hell, no respite from the haunting past, and no silence for the man who once was now buried beneath the monster I've become. Chapter 3. The Search for Oblivion. The world before me swims in a murky haze, my remaining eye clouded with cataracts. I blink, trying to clear the milky veil, but it's useless. Shapes and shadows merge into an indistinguishable mass, and I am left to navigate this hellscape more by instinct than sight. My jaw hangs loosely, grotesquely dislocated. I can feel it sway with every step, a pendulum of flesh and bone. It makes the act of feeding a grotesque challenge, each bite a cacophony of snaps and squelches that seems to echo endlessly in my head. Drawn by a twisted sense of connection, I pursued the child, the one who bore an eerie resemblance to my daughter. But it was a trap, a cruel bait set by the human survivors. They swarmed me, their weapons tearing through my decaying flesh, ripping away pieces of the monster I've become. I fought with a ferocity born of desperation, clawing, biting, tearing. In the end, I escaped, but not whole. I left behind a trail of my own putrid flesh, a breadcrumb trail of gore that mocked my suffering. I fled to a dilapidated hospital, a mausoleum of medicine and mercy, now just another tomb in a world of walking death. The voices in my head were relentless, a chorus of despair that drove me to a frenzy. I needed silence. I needed an escape. I searched the moldy cabinets and smashed open the rusted medical supplies, looking for anything that might numb the mental cacophony. My hands, clumsy and uncooperative, fumbled with the containers, spilling pills like candy across the stained floor. I consumed them without thought, a desperate hope that chemicals could silence what willpower could not. The effects were immediate and terrifying. Colors and sounds intensified, warping into grotesque parodies of reality. The walls seemed to breathe, the ceiling undulated like the surface of a troubled sea. The voices, however, did not fade. They grew louder, more insistent, as if they too were mutating, becoming something even I could not comprehend. But it wasn't just the voices. My body, already a horror to behold, began to change further. The chemicals reacted with the infection that animated my corpse, creating new, monstrous mutations. My flesh bulged and writhed, tumors pulsating beneath the skin, oozing pus and blood. My limbs contorted, bones snapping and reforming into something other, something alien. I became a creature of pure, unbridled horror, a being that defied the natural order of life and death. And in this transformation, a new realization dawned upon me, a worse truth that chilled me to the core. The chemicals did not bring the oblivion I craved. They brought only more pain, more mutation, and the voices. The voices were with me still, an eternal testament to the lives I'd consumed. In this new, monstrous form, I stumbled through the corridors of the hospital, a labyrinth of despair that mirrored the twisted pathways of my own mind. The voices of my victims, of my wife, of my daughter. They were all there, a never-ending litany of the lives I had destroyed. I had sought oblivion, a respite from the agony of existence, but what I found was a deeper horror, a mutation that locked me further into this nightmare. I was not just a monster in body now. I had become a monster in spirit too. A creature of endless hunger and endless suffering, with no escape from the voices that haunted me. No silence for the man who once dreamed, once loved, in a world that no longer existed. Chapter 4. The Monstrous Reflection. The form I wear now is a grotesque mockery of life. My body, bloated with chemical-induced tumors, seeps with a vile concoction of pus and blood. Bones, sharp and jagged, pierce through my skin, revealing themselves to the poisoned air like the branches of a dead tree. I am horror incarnate, a creature of nightmares that no longer fits the mold of the undead or the living. In a room littered with shattered glass and discarded medical waste, I catch sight of my reflection, a monster beyond recognition. The broken mirror throws back an image of a body warped by the apocalypse, and now by the very chemicals I hoped would bring silence. I am a patchwork of the dead and the dying, a canvas of the carnage that has become my existence. The memories of my family slice through the fog of torment. I can see my wife's smile, hear my daughter's laughter, all intertwined with the screams of those I've consumed. Their voices are a constant cacophony of despair in my head, a reminder of all that I've lost and all that I've taken. Driven by a rare impulse of empathy, or perhaps a glimmer of the man that used to be, I stumble upon a lone zombie. It is weaker, less monstrous than I. For a brief fleeting moment, I consider sparing it. I do not need to feed, not now. The hunger is there, but it is a dull ache beneath the surface of my new monstrous desires. But the creature lunges with a guttural snarl, driven by its own need to survive. The fight is instinctual, brutal, and short-lived. I am powerful, more so than I realized, and the lone zombie stands no chance. As I stand over its still form, a silence falls over me. The voices, the endless maddening voices, have paused in the wake of this kill. But the reprieve is temporary. As the blood cools and the night air fills with the stench of death, they return. They are louder now, more insistent, as if the brief moment of silence has given them renewed strength. The voices of my family, the screams of the dead, they are a litany of accusation and guilt that I cannot escape. The worst news falls upon me like a shroud. The silence I seek is an illusion, a fleeting shadow just beyond my grasp. The chemicals that have mutated my body have not brought the numbness I craved. Instead, they have left me in a state of heightened torment, each voice a needle in my mind, each memory a blade against my soul. I lumber through the deserted hospital halls, my monstrous form a horror that even the shadows seem to flee from. The familiar places of healing and hope are now just waypoints on my journey into madness. The irony is not lost on me that in seeking to escape the voices, I have become a creature that even they fear. I'm a monster, not just in body, but in spirit. The empathy I felt for the lone zombie is gone, replaced by a self-loathing so intense it is almost a physical pain. I am the ultimate predator in a world that no longer has a place for predators. I am at the end of the line, the final chapter in the story of humanity's downfall. And as this monstrous form shuffles onward, the realization claws at what's left of my humanity. I am trapped in a body that will not die, a mind that will not quiet, a soul that will not find peace. I am condemned to walk this earth, a reflection of the monstrosity that humanity has wrought, a symbol of the cost of survival in a world that has become a living, breathing horror. Chapter 5. The Insatiable Hunger. The hunger gnaws at me, an insatiable beast that claws from within, demanding to be sated. My body, a grotesque collection of twisted limbs and oozing tumors, moves with a mind of its own, propelling me towards the scent of life and warmth. The fractures in my bones have warped my limbs into unnatural angles, a perverse origami of flesh and bone, each movement a symphony of pain. I hear them before I see them, a group of hunters, well-armed and vigilant. They move through the ruins, their steps cautious, their weapons at the ready. They're hunting my kind, seeking to reclaim the city from the clutches of death. But they are not ready for what I have become. The battle erupts without warning. I am upon them, like the fury of the night itself, my monstrous form an avatar of destruction. Their bullets and blades tear through me, but the pain is just a whisper under the roar of my hunger. I am relentless, fueled by a force that is beyond my understanding. As I tear into them, my claws rending flesh from bone, their screams fill the air. Each voice, each plea for mercy, is a siren song that only heightens my desire. And as their lifeblood spills into the broken streets, their memories spill into me. I see their lives, their loves, their fears. They become a part of the cacophony that haunts me. But it is too much. The voices, so many now, are a torrent that I cannot hold back. They scream and weep and beg for an end that I cannot give them. I claw at my own skull, desperate to silence them, to find even a moment of peace in the choce of my own mind. The injuries I sustain are horrific. My flesh tears, but it does not yield. The chemical mutations have made me into something more than undead. They have made me into something that cannot be killed, a horror that is beyond death. As the last of the hunters falls, the voices reach a crescendo. They are no longer distinct, no longer the individual cries of the consumed. They merge into a single deafening roar that threatens to tear me apart from the inside. My consciousness fractures, splinters of my former self drifting away in the maelstrom. I am no longer a man. I am no longer even a monster. I am hunger. I am rage. I am despair. The worst news is that there is no end to this. The voices will never be silent. The hunger will never be sated. I am condemned to walk this desolate earth, a creature of eternal torment, a testament to the price of survival in a world gone mad. As I stagger away from the carnage, the broken bodies of the hunters behind me, I know that there is no redemption, no salvation. There is only the hunt, the hunger, and the voices that will never cease. I am alone, utterly and irrevocably alone, in a world that has no place for me but the shadows. Chapter 6. The Final Descent. The voices, they're screaming now, a relentless torrent that drowns out the world. It's a storm inside my head. Every soul I've devoured clamoring for attention, for release. They've merged into one monstrous, accusing entity. They blame me, they hate me, and they are me. I'm staggering, barely able to control these twisted, broken limbs that once carried me so assuredly across the battlefield of this ruined city. My steps lead me without my command, taking me back through streets choked with the detritus of a world that's fallen into the abyss. Back to where it all began for me, the ruins of my former home. The house looms ahead, a specter of past happiness now just a husk like me. Its windows are dark, its walls crumbling. This place is a tombstone for every dream I ever had. I remember laughter here, the touch of my wife, the smile of my daughter. Now there's only the echo of screams, hers, theirs, mine. In this twisted clarity, this lucid agony, I know what I must do. The house must burn, and I with it. It's the only way to silence the voices, to end this nightmare. I can feel the heat before the flames even catch, the anticipation of oblivion that comes with the promise of destruction. I set the blaze myself, the flames catching quickly, greedily licking at the dry timbers. The fire spreads like the infection within me, consuming everything. I stand in the center of it all, welcoming the searing pain, thinking this is it, this is the end. But the fire, it betrays me. The voices don't dim. They grow louder, more insistent. They're not being destroyed. They're being forged into something worse. The heat isn't burning them away. It's fueling them, and I can feel my flesh tear and blacken, but I do not fall. I do not die. The mutations, the chemicals, they've done something to me, made me something even the fire can't claim. I'm trapped in this burning shell, the pain a constant, but the voices are louder. They're everything. There's a moment, a fleeting, precious moment when I see it all. The man I was, the monster I've become, the punishment I'm doomed to endure. It's a punishment far greater than death, far greater than any hell imagined by the living. The flames have taken the house, taken my past, but they haven't taken me. I'm left standing, a charred monument to survival in a world that has no place for the likes of me anymore. I walk, a creature of ash and agony, into the night that never ends. The story of the man I was has finished, but the legend of the monster I am is just beginning. It's a grotesque tale, one that will be whispered by those who survive, by those who dare to remember. The cost of survival in this new world, it's written on my body, etched into my very soul. I am the cost. I am the horror that lingers when all else has faded to dust. And as I wander into the darkness, the city's ruins reaching out to me like the hands of the dead, I understand this is my eternity. To walk alone, unrecognizable, inhuman, the voice is my only company, my only reminder of the man who once lived, who once loved. In this world overrun by horror, I am the most terrifying thing left.